Now, US and South Korean militaries held joint air drills over the Yellow Sea. These exercises are seen to be a direct response to North Korea's nuclear ambitions. And as expected, Pyongyang has hit back. The joint display of military power came a day after US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and his South Korean counterpart held talks on greater security cooperation to take on North Korea. They also agreed to increase the frequency of joint military drills and expand their scale and level. The latest drills involved stealth fighter planes from the US Air Force and fighter planes from the South Korean military in response. North Korea has threatened what it calls the toughest reaction to the United States. Pyongyang said the allies were pushing tensions to an extreme red line and threatening to turn the peninsula into a huge war arsenal and a more critical war zone. Military tensions in the Korean peninsula intensified sharply in 2022 as North Korea conducted a record number of missile tests. This included its most advanced intercontinental ballistic missile. Any joint military exercise between the US and South Korea infuriates Pyongyang, which sees them as a rehearsal for an invasion. Pyongyang has often responded with threats and drills of its own. In a statement carried by North Korea's state news agency, Pyongyang said it was not interested in dialogue as long as Washington pursues hostile policies. However, the White House on Wednesday rejected North Korea's accusations as baseless. The U.S. reiterated that it is willing to meet North Korean representatives at a time and place convenient to them. It termed the joint exercise routine and fully consistent with past practices. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Bill Gallo from Seoul. Hello to you, Bill. Thanks for being with us. Now, how significant is the U.S. Defense Secretary's visit to South Korea, and how is it being looked at in South Korea and North Korea?
Well, I think you did a really good job of summing up sort of the context of this visit by Lloyd Austin to South Korea. The thing you really didn't mention, though, is that South Korea is really looking for more promises, more reassurance from the United States that it will protect it from North Korea. As you mentioned, we saw a lot of missile tests last year. Those have continued into this year from North Korea, and many of those have actually been more threatening than usual. We've even seen North Korea send drones across the border. Their threats have been increasing. This is really rattling a certain segment of people here. It's not as if people are panicking in South Korea. That's never the case. I mean, they've dealt with this threat for years. But there is a real sense not only of worry about what North Korea is going to be up to in the coming months, but this is key. There's a real question about long-term U.S. defense commitments and whether the U.S.-South Korea alliance is sort of upgrading their defense posture at the same rate that North Korea is upgrading its defense posture. So that was what Austin's trip was about. He came here to reassure. I think that there was, some reassurance felt by South Korea. They agreed to expand military exercises. As you mentioned, we saw the first one of those today involving long-range strategic bombers by the United States. North Korea, of course, doesn't like this. It never does. Expect to see sort of both sides sort of do their thing over the next few months. Let's hope it doesn't actually get too out of hand, but it could be a rather exciting next few months on the Korean Peninsula.
Right. Now, the Philippines has granted the United States expanded access to its military bases during Austin's visit. How does it impact the U.S. and allies, South Korea and Philippines, vis-a-vis China?
Right. I mean, this was one of the main reasons I think that Secretary Austin came to the region was not only North Korea, of course, that was the main focus of his South Korea visit, but as usual, when U.S. officials come to this part of the world, they're increasingly focused on China. This new agreement that was reached between the U.S. and Philippines today, where the U.S. got access to 4 new bases, in that statement announcing that move, we saw both sides talk about, humanitarian reasons for this. Perhaps they can respond to other climate crises, things like this. But sort of the unspoken elephant in the room, if you will, is China. And I think everyone knows that these kinds of agreements are something the United States wants because it is really worried about a Taiwan contingency. And it wants not to have troops stationed long-term, not massive numbers of troops stationed in places like the Philippines, but it wants to have access to these places in case there is something that goes wrong in the Taiwan. With the Taiwan situation, it would make it much easier for the United States military to respond in that contingency.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.